Many of the games I enjoy the most are ones with expansive, in-depth worlds, which, judging by the topics of many of my recent videos, should come as no surprise. Breath of the Wild, Tropical Freeze, Origami King, Xenoblade Chronicles, all of these games have areas that are sprawling and open. It makes sense that so many games contain massive areas like this, as it makes it easier to be creative and hide collectibles, and at least usually, the bigger the world is, the more adventurous the game feels. But there's one specific game that I often forget about, which is the complete opposite, instead opting to make its levels as compact and minimalistic as possible, while still taking the player on a great quest. And that game is Captain Toad Treasure Tracker. Captain Toad initially starred in a rather simple side mode in Super Mario 3D World before being promoted to the face of a brand new, full-fledged game based upon the same general idea not long after. This new game built upon 3D World's Captain Toad levels by implementing dozens of new mechanics and expansive levels. Notice that word again. Expansive. I mentioned just seconds ago how Treasure Tracker's levels are compact, so how can they be expansive as well? Well, just as there can be complex layers of depth hidden behind a control scheme that appears relatively simplistic, as is the case with Celeste, there can also be a multitude of secrets and discoveries hiding away in even the most miniature levels, such as those present within Captain Toad's first independent journey. Taking a look at the game's very first level immediately reveals its primary focus: complexity within simplicity. This tiny cubic grassland with nothing more than a few toads, a shy guy, and a small wooden structure holds not only one of the game's many stars, but also 3 super gems, a golden mushroom, and a hidden pixel toad. This isn't a special case either, as every single level, regardless of how compact it appears, contains this vast array of hidden objectives. This multitude of collectibles to discover provides a fun sense of replayability, and as no single level takes very long to complete, fears of the game growing repetitive are nothing to worry about. The game's first handful of levels, including Mushroom Mesa, Touchstone Trouble, and Walleye Tumble Temple, all benefit from this same idea of packing small areas with big amounts of collectibles. These areas can all be seen on screen in their entirety at all times, yet still manage to occupy the player for longer than what might be expected, thanks to all the secrets they conceal. Double Cherry Palace, the game's 5th level, is the first of many that actually stretch past the border of the screen and therefore contain more than a simple cube to explore. But while levels such as this one are more expansive, they still contain the same feeling of minuteness that makes this game so charming. Even when the levels are larger in scale, they're still so compact and feel so tiny, which, while usually considered a bad thing, is exactly what makes Treasure Tracker so enjoyable and unique. It's the tiny sense of scale that truly helps to create such a wonderful experience. Every level feels like a tiny model landscape to explore, and they're all so unique. Ghost houses, trains, minecart rides, and even western saloons all get this miniature makeover. And with so much variety within levels and so many different means by which to complete each one, it makes perhaps one of the smallest games in the greater Mario universe feel like one of the grandest expeditions. In one level, the player must rotate numerous staircases to both avoid and manipulate the trails of oncoming bullet bills, and in the next, they must mine their way into the depths of a vast underground. The sheer number of levels and variety within them still shocks me every time I replay this game, and while again, the game's runtime is cut rather short simply due to the nature of said levels, it should still not be understated how much content is packed into this journey. 3 chapters are contained within the game, which not only contain loads of normal levels, but also pages dedicated to minor story events, and a type of level I've neglected to mention up until now: boss levels. That's right, despite its childish look, this game has 2 different threatening bosses, Dragodon and Wingo, who appear numerous times throughout the journey. Dragodon's fights involve Toad or Toadette dodging fireballs whilst managing to maneuver up an erupting volcano quick enough to also avoid the rising magma, while Wingo's involve complex climbs up a series of massive towers, and hit their climaxes with a duel against the frightening bird, where the player must hurl gargantuan vegetables at the flying menace. Again, the same small scale present in other levels is still applied here, but that doesn't stop these boss fights from feeling like anything short of climactic duels. As compact as Dragadon's volcano is, scaling it feels like an intense adventure in its own way, and the same goes for the endurance tests that are Wingo's battles. I distinctly remember being curious about how the game's bosses would work on my first playthrough, and I was far from disappointed. There are a few other challenge levels present that appear seemingly randomly throughout the game and add a little more variety, but perhaps some of my favorite times spent playing were in the extra DLC levels. The Wii U copy contained a handful of levels based around Super Mario 3D World, though altered slightly to account for Captain Toad's inability to jump. Revisiting these areas, but in a vastly different style of gameplay, had a very unique charm which was replicated in the Switch version, though instead with levels based on those encountered in Super Mario Odyssey, the Metro, Cascade, Sand, and Luncheon Kingdoms. Two of these levels are prime examples of the complexity within simplicity factor I mentioned earlier. The Sand and Metro Kingdom levels look as though they'd wear thin after little more than a minute, yet discovering everything they have to offer actually took me quite a while thanks to their masterful designs and layers of detail. There were also altered versions of previous levels with additional challenges and other entirely original levels added in the game's DLC, which were very pleasant ways to add even more to an already fantastic game. The notion that modern games require a massive scale in order to be impressive is one that is torn apart thanks to games such as this one. Captain Toad Treasure Tracker's take on puzzle platformers is a strange one that is made presentable thanks to the evident layers of thought that went into the designs of each and every level in order to make them all unique in their own way, despite the limited space they work with. And through the addition of multiple different types of bonus challenges, it becomes a game that can devour much more time than would ever be expected from such a seemingly compact title. It sounds strange saying it, but this tiny adventure truly is a marvel in its genre. Thank you guys for watching this rather short video for a rather short game. I promise the next one's a much longer project, so I hope to see you all there.